Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias. Who says it's the dead period in sports, Joe? We got the NBA Finals. We got the NHL. Pretty wild NCAA baseball tournament weekend. And $1 million is handed out over at Wakeman Soccer Park thanks to the soccer tournaments. There's a bunch of stuff going on this weekend. Who says it's slow, man?
So they were able to get the soccer tournament in. I know there was a high profile incident over there. They got it done.
They did get it done. A team from Connecticut ended up being the team that took home $1 million. Incident free. Just like in the NBA, the Miami Heat managed to get out of Denver without any real bad incidents themselves. They're not going to get swept, Joe. The Heat culture coming through in Denver last night. And I think the main talking point that seems to be coming out of the game is that somehow Eric Spoelstra, the head coach of the Heat, found some secret sauce against the Denver Nuggets. Like, he turned Jokic into just a scorer. They took away his ability to create. Look at his assist rate last night. I think that's cute. Sometimes sports is really, really simple. You know what the Heat did last night that they weren't able to do in game one? They hit shots. All right. Shout out to Sidney Lowe. You got to make shots. And that's exactly what the Miami Heat did last night. And it was their other players stepping up, like Duncan Robinson in the fourth quarter, hitting threes. And they were 17 for 35 from three last night in those big runs that happened in the first quarter. And most importantly, in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler was also more engaged. He was really quiet in game one. So when the shots are falling, things are look pretty good. When they're not, like they were in game one for the Miami Heat, well, things are going to get really dicey for you because Jokic is the best player in the NBA. He can control games without necessarily doing a whole bunch of scoring. But he did a bunch of scoring last night. But I don't think that's the reason why the Nuggets lost last night. Jokic got his supporting cast didn't, and that ultimately was the difference in the game.
Yeah, but I want to go back to Heat culture, though, Joe, because they're down. They were down by 15 points in the second half of that game. Yeah. Denver was 11-0 in the playoffs when leading by double digits, and they're also 37-1 this season when leading by at least 8 in the fourth quarter. So the Heat are cockroaches. Give me the Al Pacino Scarface voice. Give me the Tony Montana cockroaches, because that's what they are. They will not die. They will not go away. Yeah. And I've often said to you, you hit the main point there. When you talk about the supporting cast, we saw it in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was Caleb Martin. Well, he only had 3 points last night. Well, Gabe Vincent had 23. Max Strus had 14. And you mentioned Duncan Robinson scoring all of his points in the fourth quarter. This is the definition of brother-in-lawing a situation of ham and egging this thing, because you saw Strus get hot in the first quarter. Then it's Robinson in the fourth quarter. And as I said to you before, you might look at those names and go, oh, undrafted free agent. You might look at those names and go, oh, wow, Michael Porter Jr., he's a much more talented player. Aaron Gordon, my gosh, he's much more talented.
Yeah.
The difference in talent between these guys, anybody can do it. And kind of going back to that Eastern Conference Finals where we talked about the twin, the difference between the twin and Jason Tatum, as you said, is consistency, right? The twin was outstanding in the conference finals. He hasn't been as effective in the NBA finals, but that's where you're seeing Vincent. That's where you're seeing Strus. Also, more importantly, in my opinion, Bam Adebayo. I told you the Heat had 2 A+ players. Yeah. Butler is a star. Adebayo, in my opinion, one of the 25 best players in the NBA, one of the 5 best posts in the NBA.
A little bit of context with Caleb Martin, too. He was, sick on Saturday. And even if his health was 100%, based on the smaller lineup that the Heat went with, Thursday night when they played game one, it's not lost on everybody that Kevin Love was in the starting lineup for game 2. And Kevin, again, we could talk about the scoring aspect of it. This gets back to another aspect of Heat culture. Know your role. Don't give a damn. Do what you need to do. And Kevin Love, who at this point, you sit there and you think to yourself, man, Kevin Love's still in the league. He finds his way in this lineup, and he was a key difference early on. Again, you can only do so much with Jokic, but you can try to at least guide the game in the direction you want it to go and then take your chances there. And that's exactly what Kevin Love was able to do by having 2 bigger guys affect the game defensively, and it paid off for the Miami Heat. But again, it doesn't pay off. Get back to the simple point. It doesn't pay off if you're not making shots. And that's what the Heat did, going 17-35. And they got to the line too. They only got to the line 2 times, which was like an NBA Finals record. A team only like the lowest amount of free throw attempts. Now, much like when we talk about, we want to bring NC State back into this, much like when NC State fans get all upset that they only got to the line X amount of times, or they put the other team on the line a bunch of times. Well, look at your season totals. NC State was putting teams on the line more consistently than not. Well, in the case of the Miami Heat, they were one of the lowest teams getting to the line all season long. I think they had the second fewest free throw attempts this season. So all these things, you can get really, really nitpicky with it. Ultimately, you got to make shots, and that's exactly what the Miami Heat did.
You can't underestimate what the part of their culture. It's like Rod Brindamore, where it's not, hey, it's not your night, twin. Hey, it's not your night. Even Kevin Love or even Adebayo, but the other guys always have an uncanny ability to step up. You talk about Love, NBA champion. You talk about Lowry, NBA champion. You're talking about veterans who understand and buy in. And also, you're getting to the finish line here. Okay? Who do you trust more in this situation? I know Jimmy doesn't have his chip, but I look at a Lowry, I look at a Kevin Love, I look at some of those ancillary players, and I go, these are guys on the periphery, because I think you and I agree. Stars score points, and stars are the ones we all want to talk about, but it's the guys on the edge who push you to that title. And I'm not saying the Heat are going to win this series. I'm just saying, Tony Montana, man, get the chainsaw out in the bathroom. Because the cockroaches, that's the only way to get rid of them.
Hey, put that back in your mouth, man. You look like a lizard. Never forget Al Pacino's absolutely terrible Cuban accent.
I was
worst things ever put on film.
Which, of course, then spawned Razor Ramon.
Of course.
In WWF.
Of course.
So I tried looking this morning on YouTube to find a clean version of him saying a cockroaches. Yeah. And there's too many F's, even though and also, can we have a quick sidebar here?
Yeah.
Why is it legal on TikTok to play any music you want with your clip?
It's not.
If we tried to put a clip on the YouTubes of Tony Montana, when we post it, it would get flagged as, you have a copyright issue.
Yeah. So real quick sidebar.
Try to explain this one to me.
Those music clips that you hear on TikTok are actually licensed. If they're trending sounds, you have to go in. Trust me, as the person who has posted things to TikTok,
I know, and we got screwed on.
And we've been flagged a couple of times because we tried to use instrumentals for Rand to rap over, and they would flag those instrumentals. So I had to go and try to find the actual tracks that were licensed. And even then, it would find a way to the algorithm's gotten smart, man. It's gotten smart. Here's one other note before we move on to the theory as to why the Miami Heat might actually win this whole thing. Here's Eric Spoelstra. He was asked by Ramona Shelburne about turning Jokic solely into a scorer.
Final question.
Hey, Coach. Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. This is probably oversimplifying things, but sometimes when teams play against Jokic, you turn him into a scorer, you turn him into a passer, and he controls the game. He only had 4 assists tonight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's just that's the untrained eye that says something like that. This guy's an incredible player. Twice in 2 seasons, he's been the best player on this planet. You can't just say, make him a scorer. That's not how they play. They have so many different actions that just get you compromised. We have to focus on what we do. We try to do things the hard way, and he requires you to do many things the hard way. And he has our full respect. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
So that's Eric Spoelstra responding to a question. By the way, in defense of Ramona Shelburne, she was not asking a question that came out of nowhere. The broadcast was obsessed with it. Just about everything that I've read this morning before today's show was obsessed with it. So Shelburne is just asking the question that everybody was talking about. And Spoelstra's right, number one, in that you can only do so much with one of the best players out there, Joe. And then number two, my guess is, and one thing that it gets back to the whole idea of Heat culture, and we see this with coaches. Mike Malone was the same way after game one. These coaches know, man. These coaches know that it's going to be a full series. This thing could go 7. They do not want their players to be thinking, all right, we got this. So they're kind of talking to their team and to a certain extent, the fan base is through the media in responses like this. So I got no problems with that exchange. I saw some discourse this morning about how, Shelbourne got cooked by Spoelstra. No, Spoelstra's just answering the question the way that he should, and Shelbourne's asking the question that everybody was talking about.
He knows more about basketball than we do.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Housekeeping.
We're going to be out at Raleigh Times today, Joe. We're finally giving away the Sunday ticket, right?
NFL
with the Jenga.
Sunday ticket day is here. I got the big Jenga, thanks to Matt Davis, State Farm, taking care of us. Can't wait. I'm gonna have to play you in Jenga. I want to see some of your skills.
Wait till you see. I have no Jenga skills.
No. Wait till you see the giant Jenga set that we have. You're going to be very excited. Okay. And you know me, I'm super competitive, so you know how I feel.
I haven't noticed. I have not noticed that. I have not noticed that. We're on Instagram as well. Go check that out. Just look up OG Triangle Media on Instagram. We'll be posting clips and various other things. And please continue to subscribe to YouTube. I don't know about you, Joe. Out and about this weekend, I was basically Ubering my kids around this weekend. Like my older son's got like a date at the mall. Jacob's got hockey stuff that he's got to attend and whatnot. And I've had a few people coming up saying, "Hey, enjoying the podcast." And I just simply say, "Look, you giving it 5 stars? That's all that matters. Just give it 5 stars." Which we're almost up to 1,000 ratings on Apple. So let's just push that over 1,000 on Apple and keep giving it 5 stars. I see that one person that gave it 1 star. I see you. It's fine. I miss my haters. I've stated that. I kind of miss my haters to a certain extent. But shout out to everybody who's given us 5 stars or come up to us and say, "Hey, join the podcast," or saying that, "Hey, I prefer this format over the previous format. I'm actually taking in more of the show." And the same thing applies to YouTube as well. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. I got that brass monkey ready to go, Joe. Over ice. Do you want that thing over ice, or you want it straight out of the bottle?
I'm not sure why I'm making that face. I do think there's a ranch there somewhere in there for me because
I like ranch. Yeah, I like ranch. You don't like ranch.
No.
All right.
Gross.
You want to take? Actually, I know what we can do. We can just take a spoonful of ranch seasoning that comes in the packet. It's like the cinnamon, like the cinnamon challenge, right? You think you could take a spoon? You think you could do a spoonful of ranch? Actually, like the powder, not the actual dressing out of a bottle. I'm talking about the powder.
Seasoning itself, I would have less of a problem with than I do the creamy.
All right. Okay. I'm going to jot that down.
Okay.
I don't know if we have to wait to get to 5,000 subscribers. I kind of want to see this sooner.
45, maybe.
Maybe 45. Maybe 35.
Since you're usually the challenge person.
Maybe 35. Let's get to 35,000 subscribers.
I'll do that.
All right.
I'll do that.
All right. We got it nailed. 35,000 subscribers. And we will have Joe take a tablespoon of Hidden Valley Ranch out of the packet. Or do you want to just rip open the packet and just like a thing of Fun Dip, just go to town on that thing?
I'll shoot it.
Perfect. I love that. So anyway, appreciate everybody who has subscribed, rated, and everything else that helps us get our stuff out in the algorithm, populated, and everything else. Also, shout out to our sponsors, Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com, or you can give them a call at 919-550-7355. As we'll illustrate in a little bit, the realty market in this area is pretty off the charts right now. It can be super competitive. I've heard stories of open houses, people lining up, 20 deep, 30 minutes before they even get going. So you need somebody who's on it, both residential and commercial, and My Hometown Realty can do it.
Yeah, you don't want to navigate this market without a little bit of help. And Barry Woodard and his team at Hometown Realty, they're the best. Don't believe me. They have more than 250 agents. And they're experts in the home buying and selling experience. They have 6 locations, Joe. Raleigh, Clayton, Selma, Atlantic Beach, and of course, La G.
Also, shout out to Whitaker and Hamer. We actually met up with Josh and Joe last week, and we're going to talk to Josh this week. We're going to try to break the grant of rights for the ACC. We're going to do a little mental gymnastics. We're going to do a little mental exercise to see if we can break the ACC's grant of rights with an actual lawyer who's seen the original grant of rights, not the updated one, but we can try to infer some things. But if you need to break a grant of rights or explore it, by all means, contact Whitaker and Hamer, wh.lawyer.
Yeah, if you're starting a business, selling a business, all kinds of family law, real estate closings, buying a house, hey, go to My Hometown Realty, myhtr.com, and then hook up with Josh and Joe, close on your house. They'll take care of you. 20 years of experience, Raleigh, Clayton, Fuquay, Morehead City, and then, of course, all of the G's, Gastonia, Goldsboro, and the G, Garner.
Speaking of homes, I saw this on the News and Observer today. A piece of Blue Devil history. Coach K's Durham, quote unquote, starter home is under contract. I love how they place this. Anyway, so apparently this house was purchased in 1980 when Krzyzewski got the job at Duke. The house was built in 1972. Coach K was making $400,000 a year, which at that time was pretty decent money. Yeah. But so was buying a 2,700 square foot split level home, which apparently sold for $400,000. And it's got some, like, look at this, Joe. Here's what I want to know. Here is my ultimate takeaway about this house and it being sold. Look at that gorgeous mid-century modern furniture, dude. Like, did that come with the home? Is that staged? Can I get look at, you know how good my vinyl records would look on that shelf?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right next to my look at that. I love it. Look at this chair. Can we bring that to the studio space?
I wonder if they customize this for you.
Like,
if I search for
like that is my jam right there. I want all of that. I want all that furniture. Oh, God. Look at that end table. That is a gorgeous end table. Where did they get the vases? Look at that lamp. I want all this. I want all this stuff. Anyway.
Put that on a shirt. Look at the end table.
Look at that end table. So, I feel like, Joe, I feel like the News and Observer kind of buried the lead here with the house being sold. It's the fact that Mike Krzyzewski apparently bought this house with a 100% borrowed down payment in 1980. Can you imagine doing that now? Imagine trying to buy a house now with no cash up front.
Okay.
Right now in this market.
I think you could if you were Duke's basketball coach.
Yeah. Maybe.
Because they knew who he was. They knew the money that he was coming into, right? Because he probably only made if he made $75,000 at Army, I'd be stunned.
Yeah.
At that time, right?
Yeah.
That would have been a lot.
Yeah, it would have been.
So yeah, I could look. Remember when LeBron James was in high school and he couldn't get paid? And
no. If
people were like, "Oh, why are you driving a Hummer?" Because the people who give you a Hummer are like the car are like, "Hey, you're about to make $25 million, so yeah, I will front you this car until you get paid." That happens all of the time.
It does happen all the time. It does happen all the time. See, you're bringing up, friend the money because you're going to be good for the money. I think you're using the wrong example of LeBron James. There's a Duke example right there that got Duke all in trouble and people were curious. Lance Thomas. You don't remember Lance Thomas?
Jewelry?
When he went to the jewelry, he
got a Jesus piece. Jacob the jeweler.
Yeah, he got the big old. He literally got a Jesus piece.
Yeah,
he fronted the money, and then that became a scandal because how is he going to get the money? I'm like, well, because people give you the money because they think you're going to be NBA guy. An NBA guy. What's funny about that is like Lance Thomas in the NBA. Hey, I don't know about you, Joe, but if I remember correctly, Lance Thomas had the longest career off that squad.
No.
Or was it JJ had the longest career off that squad?
No, he was 2010. You're right. No.
Yeah, he was part of that 2010 group. But I'm pretty sure Lance Thomas had the longest career off that group.
You might actually no. One of the Plumlees was on that team. They're still in the league.
That's right. Plumlee's still
Mason was on that team.
Yeah, one of the Plumlees. I can never remember.
Let's look
to the Google machine to see which one.
No, because that was Zubek. I don't know if the Plumlees were on that team.
No, there was a Plumlee on that team, or there were two Plumlees on that team. Pretty sure there were two Plumlees on that team.
Let's look
off to the Google machine.
Yeah, both of the
Move on. So both of the Plumlees were on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Mason was a freshman on that team.
All right, so moving on, much like the NCAA baseball tournament is moving on, just without some of the local teams. NC State, done. North Carolina, done. Duke's on the verge. They're in action later today. ECU was sent home as Virginia moves on. Wake Forest, just crushing people at 10:45 at night while Wake Forest head coach, basketball coach Steve Forbes is getting everybody hyped up. to show up to the couch. So the NCAA baseball tournament, I guess, coming out of this weekend has been marked by some of the wild results. I feel like this is kind of the case throughout, although there might be even a more specific key to the NCAA baseball tournament if you're an ACC squad. Wake Forest is moving on, and they had like a 41-run differential throughout this weekend. What were they not dealing with this weekend, Joe?
Yeah, and they were the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. And
they had a great season.
Listen, I promise you, I'm not trying to throw shade on how good Wake Forest is. I'm trying to illustrate how stupid this tournament is, because the number 1 overall seed simply does not win this tournament. It just doesn't happen, even when it's an SEC team. We saw this with Tennessee last year. We've seen this even like a half dozen times with Carolina and the amazing teams that Mike Fox had that would get to Omaha and were not able to win. So it is literally like this wackadoo format, right? NC State beats Campbell. You're like, okay, but they were eliminated by Campbell. And then you go, well, we were 1-1 against Campbell. And it reminds me of the Ted Lasso, where he's talking about, so if we lose, what league are we in? The Champions Division, the Championship Division. Oh, but if we win tomorrow, we go where? The Champions League. Oh, what's the difference? Like, State beats Campbell, State loses to Campbell. One of you goes home. Either way, the teams in the Winston-Salem Regional, Northeastern, Maryland, George Mason, So that's cool. They earned the right as the number 1 overall seed to play those teams. But I would not get on a popsicle kick just quite yet if I were the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Now they get Alabama in the Super Regional. That'll be the tournament starts for them, because the tournament doesn't start until you play an SEC team. Alabama obviously fired their coach earlier this season for placing a wager, or attempting to place a wager against Alabama because their starting pitcher was out when they were facing LSU. We'll see what Alabama looks like and what resistance they offer. I suspect Wake Forest does get to Omaha, but then there will probably be at minimum 4 SEC teams waiting for them when they get there.
All right, you posed a question that I need some context on.
I got my sheet now.
This you put this out on Twitter late yesterday, and you posed it to the G4 text thread, your Garner golf group. Would you rather be a State fan or a South Carolina fan? You've got 640 votes so far, and nearly 80% of those who have responded have said NC State. Now, I will say this. I'm guessing that the majority of the people who follow you, Joe, are NC State fans. They're not South Carolina fans. So I think this is not exactly a scientific poll that you're dealing with here. But even if I tried to look at this objectively, because we're here in the Triangle, we cover NC State along with North Carolina and Duke and everybody else in the ACC. What is South Carolina's hook exactly? What's their hook? All right, give me the elevator pitch on the Gamecocks. I want to hear this.
Let's go over the premise here, because
what's the premise here?
I can't ask people who are State fans, are you going to be a State fan? Right. This is, two thoughts on that. Number one, let's just say you just moved to the Triangle and you were going to pick a school to be a fan of. You have Carolina and Michael Jordan and all of the shiny objects, all of the success, the great color scheme, the pine trees, as our friend Heather Dinich once wrote. You have Duke, all of the success. Mike Krzyzewski, the greatest college basketball program in the last 40 years. You have very easy selling points, right? Adam Silver, go to Duke, the Fuqua Business School, you'll be on your way. NC State, on the other hand, you have to be born into NC State. Mm-hmm. It ain't for soft people. So most people don't willingly choose to be a State fan.
Oh, I would agree with that premise.
Given an option,
yes,
you're not going, I want to be a State fan. It would truly have to be Becky in HR who goes, well, I like the color red better than blue, so I'm going to be a State fan. You would have to be oblivious to the world to be a State, to choose to be a State fan.
Or you share the building with the team and you're Rod Brindamore. And then you marry into the Wolfpack family, which quickly condolences to the Brindamore family. Bob Brindamore passed away on Thursday, so our thoughts with them.
And what a great tribute I saw on Facebook from Trip Tracy. We have talked many, many times about Rod's legendary work ethic, and his dad, a pipe fitter, all of those years. That's where that work ethic came from. So yeah, you're right. But choosing to be a fan, and I think that's where I kind of got lost a little bit with the question and the framing of the question.
Okay.
So let's think of it as if there were 100 people to move into an area and you got a choice, free slate to pick a team to be a fan of, right? And I think most people out of 100, how many do you say would pick Carolina over State? North Carolina.
99.
With no allegiances.
Yeah, with no allegiances, 99 out of 100 are picking Carolina.
Yeah, I would say maybe 95. I would give them maybe a few more. Sure. There's a couple of contrarians probably out of 100, right?
Right.
But most people are going to pick UNC, the real Carolina. Now, if we pose that question, would you rather be a State fan or a South Carolina fan to this person who has no allegiances? Then you have to start going through the pros and the cons. So you say there are no pros for South Carolina. So
no, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I simply asked the question, what's the hook for the Gamecocks? Unless you want to wear a hat, a frat boy hat that says Cox across it, I really don't know what the elevator pitch is for South Carolina athletics. What is it?
All right, so let me give you the pros if you were to choose South Carolina.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
In general, the two main sports that most fans care about, most male fans in our demographic care about, right? Are football and men's basketball. Fair?
Yes.
Those are the two most popular sports in college.
Those would be the only ones that ultimately matter. Yes.
Okay. We'll get to those in a second. But the next two, so that would be on the top tier. The next tier would be baseball and women's basketball. We agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. In those two other sports, the two main other sports, South Carolina has national titles in 2010 and 2011 in baseball. South Carolina has national titles in 2017 and 2022 in women's basketball. Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
4 titles in the last 13 years in those two other sports. Pretty good. All right. Now let's go to the obvious. They're in the SEC. SEC money. They got a lot of money. Okay.
Can I take that money with me? Like, am I getting a cut?
Okay, that's a con, but it's a pro and a con.
I mean, like last time I checked, when we get wrapped up in which conference makes the most amount of money, like, okay, cool. But I did not realize that South Carolina fans in Columbia are getting residuals. No, I didn't realize you're getting checks.
They love Alabama and Georgia. Don't worry. Okay, well, that's a con, but we're in the pros right now. You have the SEC money.
Okay.
Right? 2017, the men's basketball team went to the Final Four. Again, if you're a State fan, you probably take a Final Four in the last 40 years.
Okay.
All right, let's go football. They had 11 wins 3 years in a row. NC State's only won double digits once in their entire history. NC State's never finished in the top 10 of the AP top 25. So they had 11 wins 3 straight years, 11, 12, and 13 in the last, again, 13 years. They finished in the top 10 all 3 years. Okay. Let's go a little bit farther back in football. They have a Heisman Trophy winner, something that NC State and something that UNC or Duke can't claim. Okay. And George Rogers, 1980, won the Heisman Trophy.
When 1980?
I'm just giving you the pros. I'm giving you the pros.
When Coach K bought a house on the cheap.
There you go. But I'm giving you the pros.
When interest rates were 18%.
So you have more success in the other sports, which, quite frankly, in the G4 text thread, we talk a lot about baseball. We talk a lot about women's basketball. So I do think there is interest in those two sports, right? Oh, and here's the ultimate pro for South Carolina. They made the biggest FU move in the history of college sports by leaving the ACC in 1971 over a dispute about academics in 1971. You figure a lot of that, though, was, hey, I'm tired of Carolina telling us what to do. Hey, I'm tired of Duke and Clemson telling us what to do.
They left. To be what? But they left the SEC. Cool. You left. Much like Maryland left. Does anybody spend any time thinking about?
No. You're giving me the con. I'm giving you the pro. That was the ultimate double bird. We're leaving, and then on the way out, Joe, they won their one and only men's basketball championship. Obviously, the sport in 1971 that anyone and everyone cared about in the ACC. Yeah. So not only did they say, "Hey, we're tired of you," but then they took their ball and went home with their only men's basketball tournament championship.
That's
pretty good FU energy.
That's cool. That's cool that those things happen. But no, I'm not buying this idea. I think you're stretching at this point.
Okay.
I think you're stretching, especially when you're bringing up the fact that yes, the women's basketball team has won a national championship.
2.
Yes, the baseball team has won a national championship, 2. And this is not. These are things that I have to be very, very careful about because I don't want it to seem like I don't believe there are fans of those sports. There are.
Yeah.
Okay. There are. But I always feel that baseball and women's basketball are propped up when those other 2 sports have not been successful. So you're clinging to something to be happy about. And I see this kind of projected on to Elliott Avent, right? Whereas, basketball is going through whatever it is at any given time. Football, it's tough sledding in the Atlantic Division, where it was in the Atlantic Division. It's only going to get more difficult now in divisionless football. So, like, all the weary state fans turned their eyes to Elliott Avent to take advantage of these situations, and he's knocked on that doorstep, whether it's getting to an ACC championship game only to get shut out, or hey, going to Omaha and having been sent home because of COVID, right? So I feel like baseball has been put in this position that you have to do this for us so we can finally feel the success. And I feel like when you get to talking about when you start propping up baseball, especially baseball, I feel like you're really grasping at straws for something to hang your hat on. It's the equivalent of the hashtag fandom that exists when, say, the tennis team wins the championship. I'm not saying that tennis fans don't exist, but I see you people. I know what's happening. You see that your school won something. You go, oh, cool, we won something. You hit retweet, and then you move on with your life. You did not watch the tennis team. You did not watch the wrestling championship. You didn't. Now, I'm not saying, again, I got to be clear. I'm not saying that there aren't wrestling fans. There are. I'm not saying there aren't tennis fans. There are. Or lacrosse fans, for that matter. But we see this a lot where it's more about like, I went to a great school because look at all these championships we're winning. But you're not that invested. It's just basically a way to brag on other schools. That's all that is. And if you find yourself arguing over, well, we have more baseball championships than you do, you've already lost the argument. You've lost the argument.
All right,
because this is where we get back to the cons. And I get back to my central point.
I was going to say, we got cons. I'll give you the cons.
Oh, there's tons of cons.
There's a couple of good ones, too.
No, there's the biggest one. The biggest one is, what is your hook? You're not even the Carolina. You're not even the USC. Football is the thing that ultimately stirs the drink for all things. You want a division in 2010. Okay? That's your claim to fame. Now, clearly NC State hasn't even been able to do that, but cool. So it gets back to the hook. Nobody thinks about South Carolina. Nobody thinks of what is South Carolina's rival? Is it Clemson? Is that it? Does Clemson even give a damn about South Carolina? Get your ass beat by Clemson a good chunk of the time now. So at least with State, you have like little things that are, yours, whether it's what happens with NC State and Carolina, what happens with Wake Forest. There's an identity that exists with NC State fans. Maybe it's misery, but at least there's an identity. I couldn't tell you what the South Carolina identity is other than arguing with people about what's the real Carolina. I mean, honestly, that's what the South Carolina hook is to me. And that's not a great hook if you're asking me.
So the cons for South Carolina, since I presented such a great case for the pros.
An amazing case. Yeah. Amazing case.
Those are pretty good ones. I mean, yes, the identity crisis. You're not the real USC. No one thinks of you as USC outside of Columbia. And of course, you're not the real Carolina. That's North Carolina. And then the true con. And this is amazing because while NC State has not won an ACC championship in football since 1979, and they have not won what is recognized as the ACC championship since 1987, South Carolina has never won an SEC football title. South Carolina has, and now they joined in 91, but still a pretty good sample size.
Sure.
They've never won what is recognized by the NCAA and the league as an SEC title in men's basketball. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So in the two sports that, again, are the most popular and the ones that most people care about, You have not only never won a title, but I'll say it, in football, you will never win the SEC title.
No.
Ever.
No.
You never, and there is no hope. So while State has not won a conference title in football since 79, they've at least had years, right? 2010, 17, 21, 22, where you go into them and you go, oh, State has a chance. This is our year. This is a chance. This is our year. You don't even have that at South Carolina. You don't have that hope that it will ever happen. Because by any chance that you do beat Georgia, you'd have to beat them again, right? Or they'd have to lose twice. And then, oh, by the way, your reward is you got to go beat Alabama. Yeah. The chances of South Carolina ever beating the two best teams in the SEC are 0.0.
Okay.
So it's hard to be that fan. It's really, but props to them. Because if you've ever been to Williams-Brice Stadium, 90,000 fans are there.
Oh, yeah.
Every single game. Every time they open those gates, those fans are there, even knowing there is no title in your past and there is seemingly no hope for a title in your future. That's impressive to me. That's impressive to me.
I'll give South Carolina this on our way out. They at least had a Cuban guy as their head coach in basketball. So I'll give them that. Shout out to Frank Martin. And Shane Beamer as head coach of South Carolina is a content machine. Shane Beamer is extreme. He's like our age. He is extremely online. And sometimes he sticks his foot in his mouth. But like, shout out to our guy, Heath Klein, who does sports talk radio out of Columbia, South Carolina. He always has something to talk about because Shane's beefing with somebody. Shane's going to be beefing with somebody. And it could be. And that's good content for us.
What's up next? What's up next?
So we got a few things to get to before we talk about some gambling. Big shouts to NEW. That is the Network for Entrepreneurs in Wilmington. You can check them out online at newilm.com. We'll get to it in a Hey Joe question, but I know Jim Roberts, who we talked to last month, to explain all the entrepreneurial opportunities in Wilmington. He wants to come out to the beach. He wants to do a show out of the beach, drink some beer, hang out with Jamie over at Breaking Tea. There's all sorts of things we can do out in Wilmington, and you too can do things out there as a startup.
Yeah, I'm in, Joe. You just let me know. You can find Jim R. Roberts on LinkedIn and Facebook. It's an entrepreneur support organization to help create better startups, which in turn creates better jobs and a better economy in Wilmington. The Network for Entrepreneurs in Wilmington, where the river of innovation meets an ocean of possibilities.
You know what NC State has over South Carolina as well? There's a breeze through right across the way from Carter Finley Stadium and PNC Arena, so that you can get your crowler and various other things and all your goodies, your snacks and all that stuff before you go to a game. And you'll definitely be hitting that ahead of this football season for tailgating. Yeah, South Carolina doesn't have that, Joe.
Yeah, on my list of pros for NC State was Raleigh, right? Like at the end of the day, Columbia is still Columbia.
It is. No, I've heard great things about Columbia. Don't get me wrong, but they don't have a breeze through. That's the important thing.
I will badmouth Columbia. It is probably the 6th or 7th circle of hell. So if you've ever been to a football game there in August, you know that I know what I'm talking about right now. Mm-hmm. But yes, breeze through. That's heaven. Right across the street from PNC Arena. 1200 Edwards Mill Road, a locally owned neighborhood store. Of course, they have gas. You know that. They have ice. You know that. They have all kinds of drinks. Joe mentioned the Crowler, and the beers that they have there are amazing. But still number one with a bullet on my list, the dark roast coffee. Get your caffeine boost at Breeze Through Markets.
Also, shout out to Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. I was able to grill yesterday, hang out in the back patio while I was grilling. Wasn't bothered by the mosquitoes. You know, there's been a lot of rain out there. It's starting to warm up. That's like prime mosquito breeding time, and they could be out in full force. But Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority has been coming out to my house. I've been treating the yard, and it's paying off. They were here, I think, earlier in the week, and was able to hang out and grill, no issues whatsoever, and had a good time.
Yeah, check them out at bugsbite.com. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. It's not just bugs, not just ants, not just termites, mice, and any kind of moisture issues that you might have in your crawl space. Trust me, get them to check it out. It's going to save you money in the long run.
So we're going to talk to Dawn Vaughn of the News and Observer here in a little bit. I know she had popped on here for a second, but then she disappeared. So I don't know what happened. Hopefully she'll pop back on. While we wait for her to join us here on Ovies and Giglio. I did, Joe, want to explore an interesting theory that's been making the rounds in Reddit circles, and it started to creep into the betting line. So I figured this would get your spidey senses tingling once things start to affect the Vegas line. This was posted on Reddit 16 days ago. It was on our NBA, and it was the key to the Eastern Conference matchup this year is Taylor Swift. The Eras Tour is going on right now. And what this Reddit poster pointed out is that what people don't know is that Taylor has been choosing the loser of each round for the Eastern Conference matchups to play in their city while their team goes up in flames and loses. You got the first round, Atlanta and Boston. Atlanta loses that series 4-2. Taylor Swift plays 3 shows right after the series in Atlanta, easing the nerves of Hawks fans, girlfriends everywhere, and Hawk fan dudes. Okay, I've seen plenty of dudes at these shows, and I would be one of them if I could afford a ticket. Second round, Philly. Boston. Philly loses the series 4-3. Taylor Swift plays 3 shows during the series in Philly, including the same day performance after the Game 7 loss, allowing fans to cope with their loss quickly by spending $3,000 for them and their wives to go sit in nosebleeds. Eastern Conference Finals, Miami, Boston. Current standing, Boston's losing the series 0-2. Guess where Taylor Swift is right now? You guessed it, Boston. She's already performing this weekend to get this sweep over and done. Boston fans can celebrate last night's loss by driving an hour outside the city to Gillette. And then the play-in game was Atlanta and Miami. Atlanta won that. Swift was in Florida that weekend, but luckily she was gone from the state as Miami played Chicago to get their spot. She was in Tampa. She's not playing Miami, Joe, which gets us to the key part, and that is whether or not this Denver-Miami series is going to be affected by Taylor Swift. You know where Taylor Swift is set to play later this summer?
Miami.
Nope, Denver. Guess who won last night in Denver? The Miami Heat. So this has started to affect things a little bit. And Vegas has now gotten hip to this. And because Taylor Swift's not going to Miami, or she's scheduled not to go to Miami, but she is scheduled to play in Denver, that now people are starting to buy that. It's not Heat culture that's doing this. It's T-Swizzle. It's T-Swizzle making this happen.
Okay.
You buying it?
Man, if you're talking about something more powerful, a force more powerful than anything on this planet, then I think the Swifties are probably the answer. I don't know about you. I've had a bunch of people who are like, yeah, someone just went up to Philly. Someone just went down to Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, I know plenty of people.
And it was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know
those tickets. First of all, weren't they like extremely difficult to get?
Yeah, so there was a debacle with Ticketmaster, and this all ties into the power of Taylor Swift, okay? The power of Taylor Swift can actually get some change, maybe with the way Ticketmaster goes about their business. Ticketmaster had to send out apologies and everything else for how all this stuff went down. She can drop a new single, and it's easily going to go to number 1 on the streaming charts. For a long time there, she didn't even have her music on streaming services. You had to buy Taylor Swift stuff. That affected who was going where when she finally put her stuff on streaming. And she's actually re-releasing her material because of a dispute with her previous management group. And every time she puts out something new, it automatically sells. So there is a power to Taylor Swift. I don't deny the power of Taylor Swift. I'm a Taylor Swift fan. I've got some of her records, but I did not realize that the power extends itself to a potential Taylor Swift curse in the NBA. That was not something I had on my bingo card this summer. That is not something I had on the Taylor Swift, like she broke up with her boyfriend, who's she hanging out with, all these types of things. So just something to keep an eye on now that the series is tied at 1 apiece, Joe.
All right.
We're moving on.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline from the News and Observer, political reporter Don Vaught. All right, so Don, this is a classic Explain Like I'm 5. Do we have mobile sports wagering yet, or do we not? Where are we right now in this process?
Almost.
Okay.
Almost. And there was one glitch last week that could have killed the whole thing, but it looks like it's going to happen. Nothing is 100% in politics or sports, right? So Tuesday is the House concurrence vote, which basically means when one of the other chambers changes a bill, it has to go back to the other chamber for them to say okay. So that should be just a quick up-down vote, probably over 2 days since a lot of money is involved, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it would go to Governor Cooper's desk to sign. And he's pretty much said he never says for sure, again, that whole 100% thing about if you're actually going to sign it or not. But yeah, he wants it. I'm pretty sure he'll sign it. Yeah, and they could override him anyway if he doesn't.
I mean, we talked to him in March about it when he was unveiling his brackets, and he straight up said, we have it in the budget. So when you go so far to say you've got it in the state budget, my guess is yes, he wants this to go through. Although I wanted to circle back to what you said. There was almost a glitch. What was this glitch? What was the potential thing that could like derail this entire process?
Well, it could end up in the final budget. Right now, it's a separate bill. It could end up in the final budget. The glitch was House Speaker Tim Moore talking to reporters after session one day and saying, I think we'd like all the gambling stuff in one bill, which was an immediate, like, what? Like, all hell breaks loose for it. Is that going to kill it? Because not everyone agrees with all the other things going on, like the sweepstakes and casinos and everything else. And so the next day, Moore was there for a non-voting session. He's like, yeah, I need to talk to you guys. I misspoke yesterday, and we're just going to have an up-down vote. So that's the plan.
Dawn Vaughn is the Capitol Bureau Chief at the News and Observer. She's joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. All right, Dawn, please tell me you were there when Angier Republican Senator Jim Bergen created a new bit for the OG podcast.
No, you said Bergen created a bit?
He created a new bit for us, maybe unintentionally, but
we're very excited about this.
I'm reading your story, and it says that he said during the debate about the bill, the lawmakers should give the test of, will it disappoint my mother?
That's right. It's a solid test. He actually mentioned his mom's name too.
It's not Nora, is it?
Don't think so. I don't remember, but it was in his speech about thinking about what this could mean, and that was his way of wrapping it up. Was the
could it disappoint your mother?
Well, what if your mom disappoint my mother?
What if your mom likes to gamble? Not all.
Then I guess you vote for the bill.
I was gonna say, like, there's this idea, like, well, your mom. What if my mom likes scratch-off tickets? What if my mom's all in on the lottery? Like, who's to say that my mom doesn't want to go to the craps table? Or you know who I see at a slot machine? I see grandmas at slot machines. So I don't know. I find that test a little suspicious, Dawn. I'm not.
It would have been good if one of the other lawmakers came back and said, "Well, yeah, my mom does this, so that's why I'm going to vote for it." But they weren't fast on the draw on it.
What's up next? What's up next?
Big shout out to the Butcher's Market for sponsoring the Ovias and Giglio podcast experience. I actually went to Butcher's Market. But we went to Butcher's Market to settle debate, which we'll put on YouTube a little bit later on this week. But I also went to Butcher's Market to get the charred jalapeno chicken and the ancho lime chicken, which I ended up making fajitas out of. I had not had that jalapeno charred chicken before. Yeah. It was excellent, man. I feel like what have I been? I like the ancho, but that jalapeno was a different level. I'm gonna have to get some more of that.
And it's not hot. It's just a nice little heat, a low heat, great flavor. I'm so conflicted now because I got the wings same day you got jalapeno chicken, which I previously had. They were outstanding. Great size. I don't know about you. A lot of people think wings are about the sauce or how we make them, air fryer, grill, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's the size of the wings that matter. Unbelievable wings. Every time I go there, I find something else that I freaking love. It's
so ridiculous. Size matters. Size matters is what you're telling me.
Ridiculous. They were so good. Get all of their stuff. They got locations in Raleigh, Cary, Wake Forest, Holly Springs, and of course, where we're huge, in Wilmington.
Also, shout out to Oak City Sports Cards. My guy Chris took his kid to Oak City Sports Cards so they can work on some, I think Luke Kuechly and some other Panthers things while they were down there. I was actually thinking about this, Joe, because we're going to be going to ACC kickoff in July. I feel like, and maybe Weston can make this work for us. I feel like we have to get Coach era specific sports cards and have them open up a pack so we could do the old Deadspin bit. Let's remember some guys. Can you imagine? Let's get Dave Dorn to open up a pack of football cards from around 1989 to see oh, that was my guy. I think that'd be fun.
Do that.
And with the players, you know what we do with the players? Pokemon cards.
I was gonna say, show them the pack of cards. Like, what are these relics, sir?
No, I bet you if we get them a pack of Pokemon cards, I bet you somebody will pull out like, hey man, Charmander was my guy. That was my starter.
You do know though that some of those players are actually in that Bowman Inception University set. Go chase the French Mamba. Go get yourself some cards, buy, sell, and get them graded. Most important thing about Oak City Sports Cards in Weston, give you a fair price, give you an unbelievable deal. Check them out at oakcitycards.com.
Let's answer some Hey Joe questions brought to you by Oakwood Pizza Box. You can use the hashtag HeyJoe on Twitter. I'm still trying to figure out a way to make it work on YouTube. Work with me on the YouTube thing, guys. Just work with me on the YouTube stuff. Let's go to Jim from NEW. How about a podcast from the beach? I'm sure Jamie Mott from Breaking Tea, who we've partnered with. Check out breakingtea.com/OG. We got a t-shirt up there right now. You get the butcher's market. You come up with a plan. Gilio, apparently you're on board. There's breweries out there. I'm on board. I love Wilmington. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to show you the spot that Jim sent me, and you're going to be like, when are we leaving? Because it looks unbelievable.
All right. You'll have to show that to me. All right, this is from Cam. Hey, Joe, since it's now officially football season for state fans, now that the Wolfpack are out of the NCAA baseball tournament, I have a ticket for NC State at plus 1,600 to win the ACC. Will it cash?
I can't believe it's only 16-1. That would be kind of like, remember last year with the Bills, I kept telling you, if the Bills win, the payout needs to be more than 5-1. If the Bills finally do this thing, your payout should be more than 16-1 for NC State. Your ticket will not cash. NC State has their greatest home schedule ever, though. So I would advise on getting yourself some tickets. They got Carolina, Clemson, and Notre Dame at Carter Finley Stadium this year. That is going to be really good. But winning the league, it's an uphill road. That's for sure.
All right, to Eric on Twitter. So we have the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. The Heat take a game on the NBA front. Can the Panthers reverse momentum in Game 2? Yeah, of course they can. I mean, I don't know if you watched Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Florida Panthers. The two things immediately came clear. Carolina fans were absolutely watching to see if Bobrovsky would fall back down to earth, and sure enough, he was letting in goals. But again, it's important to note how these things were happening, and the Knights did a really, really good job. What is that? What do we got there?
I'm going to give you a shout out here in a second. Can you see it good or no?
Yeah, I can see that. That's Jordan Stahl right there. Yeah, the ring light's kind of blanking that out, but that's Jordan Stahl there that you just showed me. No, so anyway, the Golden Knights did a really good job of screening in front of Bobrovsky, and then they got a break, which is what it always comes down to with the apparent high stick that caused a turnover that changed things around. Maurice found himself in a situation where he had to take the gamble on the replay. Didn't pan out. Put them on the penalty kill, and that was pretty much your game. And Maurice was upset about that. But look, the Panthers are not fazed by this kind of thing. So I expect this thing to go 6 or 7 in the grand scheme.
So I saw Jordan Stahl Saturday morning out at RCC. He was down at the UNC Health Championship. So just so happened to be parked behind us. I'm sure he was ecstatic to see me in the parking lot. His little guy, Henry, though, he was a little bit of a pistol. He was cute. But I said to him, like, hey, if the Panthers do this thing, like, will you go to Game 6, Game 7, so you could, celebrate with your brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, no. No. He was still angry over how the series went. Like, and not because of his brothers, but because of, like, Bobrovsky plays out of his skull for 3 games, right? And if you want to count the first game as 2, you can. Like, he was just out of his mind. Like, he had an out-of-body experience for 3 games, which is slightly difficult to stomach, right? That's kind of sort of a tough one to take. But then I said, okay, well, and Eric, obviously, with the Canes in 06, has his name on the cup. So, you're probably competing with your brother. So you're probably like, well, and Jordan has his name, 09 with the Penguins. So it's not like maybe you don't want to see Eric get 2, but you want to see Mark. You want to see your brother get to win.
No.
And he was like, I will be happy. He's like, if they win, I will obviously celebrate with them when they get the cup, their day with the cup. He goes, but no, I'm not going to the games. No, can't do it. He just
Hey,
kind
man.
of shook his head like,
It's
you
different.
know, mumble. It's hard to be that close.
It's different.
Really, really hard to be that close to it, especially when you've been there before and you know how hard it is to win that tournament. Hats off to Vegas, though. You know, I feel like in years past they've been like the Canes a little bit, so maybe there's a template there for the Canes where they've had really good regular seasons, and then like they're the number 1 or the number 2 seed in their conference, and you're thinking, oh, this is their year. They're highly skilled. They're a fast team. You know, the goalies, whatever. And, you know, now they're on, you know, they've put themselves in position here. You're right. I tend to think Florida probably will win this series. But if Bobrovsky had an out-of-body experience, it's really hard to duplicate those things. 2 series in a row.
It is. All right, to Matthew. Dean Smith 90s, Tar Heels, or Roy's OOs? That's tough.
My favorite Carolina player of all time is Ed Cota. And I know Ed ended up really on those Guthridge teams. So Jameson, in my opinion, too, is my controversial opinion, Anton Jameson is the best UNC player of all time.
Is that controversial?
I think it is to some people to try to wrap their brain around.
Okay, yeah, because of Jordan and everything.
And I get that group didn't win a title. But I would that Jameson and Cota, like, come on, I can't. I just can't.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And we'll close on this from our friend Ken. Hey Joe, would you sit through a track from Darkness on the Edge of Town during the credits of a Marvel movie to get to the second trailer?
That's such a great question.
It is a fantastic question. The answer to that is yes. I would sit through a track from Darkness of the Edge of Town to get to a Marvel second trailer.
But we've talked about this with Marvel. Like, they have no direction. They're the U.S. in 1991. They need an opponent. They
really don't. Like, honestly,
bad guy.
You're right about that, because I haven't seen any of the new movies. You know, I have to get back. I have to watch Ant-Man. I know Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 just came out, and you know, people said good things about it. I'm just really I'm far behind right now. I will go see the new Indiana Jones movie at the end of the month.
Will you?
Oh, absolutely. I ride for Indiana Jones. I love those movies.
I feel like there's been a bunch of them since.
No, it's only 4. It's the 4th one. No, I'm sorry, it's the 5th one.
No, the other guy, his kid, the actor, Shia LaBeouf, wasn't he in one of them?
He was in Crystal Skull, the last one, which was like 10 years ago. Yeah, there's only 5 movies. This is the
I was just saying, then there was one with Sean Connery.
Well, that was Last Crusade.
Okay.
And that was a long time
ago.
ago.
Joe, you understand. Not only the order I watch these things, but trying to continue threads that I'm like.
Hold up. How many of these did you think existed?
I thought it was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right. The OG.
That's the original. Then you got Temple of Doom.
Right.
I gave you Short Round.
The Monkey Brains. Yeah.
Yes. It chilled Monkey Brains. Then you had Last Crusade, where Sean Connery.
But that was a long time after.
Yeah.
Temple of Doom.
And then they came out, like, I want to say it was like 2008 was Crystal Skull, which was not very good. And now they got this one.
You have to try to understand. I don't think I saw a movie from between 8th grade and graduating from NC State. I probably did not see a movie in the movie theater.
That's okay. Got it. Fair enough.
Right. If I did, again, it was the Star Wars. I went to the Star Wars first 3 in the theater. I did go see those in the theater.
It's not like I spend a lot of time watching movies now. All right. Because something had to give. And movies was the thing that I essentially said, yeah, I'll just put that off to the side. I'll play video games with my free time. I'll listen to music. Movies took the back seat. But that's like prime movie watching time for you. All right. That's the thing. Like at that age, that's the part that I find interesting. That's the part that I find interesting. Like, if you tell me you didn't see a movie now, we're in our 40s. Like, yeah, okay, fine. I get that. But like prime time, 80s, 90s, they didn't see something. I find that hard to believe.
I'm saying from like 89 through 99, I don't think I went to a movie theater.
That's like, wow. Okay.
If I did, it was like once or twice.
Man, I would go once a week. especially in the summertime with nothing going on, the new blockbusters coming out.
But wait, when did the Dollar Theater open at NC State? Because I went over there a couple of times.
Oh, what the one off of?
It's gone now. It's
gone now. The one off of Blue Ridge.
Yeah,
I want to say that opened up in sometime in the mid '90s.
Okay, I probably saw a couple movies over there.
Fair enough. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Ovies and Giglio. Thanks to everybody who has subscribed, rated us 5 stars on Apple. Let's get that thing over 1,000 ratings. That'd be awesome. We're about 800 ratings right now. Let's get over 1,000. We'd appreciate that. And we'll see you all on Wednesday.